Knowing when to fire is something every private equity leader needs to be very aware of. What I've personally found is there's nothing harder in business than firing someone, letting somebody go from your organization. But obviously it's a key component to business success and it's something you have to do. No matter how many times I've done it, it doesn't seem to get any easier. And there's very little things that will keep me up at night. In fact, there's only two. One, if we've got a big deal and I'm confident we're going to close it. And two, if I've got to let somebody go from the business. But for any C-suite executive or private equity investor, firing is one of the most important parts of their role. A quote I really love is 90% of business problems are talent problems in disguise. Now, if we have some reflection over that, it's pretty simple what it means. It means that if something's going wrong in your organization, whether it be in your private equity firm or obviously in your portfolio company, it's usually someone that is causing that issue. And it's understanding why, helping them, driving them, supporting them, and trying to make change there. But if it doesn't work, you've got to go down the firing route. Most of the private equity firms that I speak to are all about excellence, all about creating phenomenal private equity firms and therefore phenomenal portfolio companies. Therefore, if that's really your drive, then firing underperformers is a key attribute that your firm has to have ingrained. If you have underperformers in your business, it only affects those in your top performer base and it will bring down the organization. So making sure that you have an elite team, either in your portfolio or in your private equity firm, is absolutely essential. So I regularly get asked the question, and I've been a victim of this certainly in the past, maybe even now, why do we hold on to underperformers for so long? Why is it people looking at us and going, why is that person in the business? And I can guarantee that your team are already thinking we shouldn't have this person in the organization. Number one is that we hired them. There's a lot of emotion when it goes into hiring, and we measure our success on the ability for us to be able to hire. So if we've hired them and they're failing, we blame ourselves. So therefore we hold on to that person. But that person isn't a direct reflection on us. And let me assure you of that case. No matter how good you are at interviewing, no matter how good you are at what you do, whether you're a C-suite exec or whether you're a private equity investor, Google did a massive study into hiring and trying to improve their process. What they found was after huge amounts of investment and huge amounts of study, that basically when hiring people, they've got a certain set of questions. They use competency-based questions. So when you're interviewing somebody, and you're going through that process, is asking them, tell me about times when this happened, tell me about times when that happened, and getting them to explain it. And that's one of their key areas. But bringing it back to my point, they actually found out that hiring, pretty much you can flip a coin and it will be a 50-50 toss on whether that person will work out. Now, this is Google. They've got a choice of the whole market with regards to individuals that they want to hire and a huge employer brand name as well as a huge brand. It doesn't give us smaller businesses and less known companies much of a chance. So don't blame yourself when these things go wrong. Every hire is a slight risk. Hire slowly, fire quickly. Number two is we always think the best in people. We think that if we give them even more time, then it may be that they'll come good. But I do believe in people. I believe people are good and I believe people are skilled in what they do. But it tends to be that if you're at the stage where you're considering firing and you've done a lot of the support mechanisms that you should be doing, then giving them more time doesn't tend to change things in my experience. What it tends to do is it'll give an uplift maybe in productivity for a couple of weeks, and it'll take a lot of your time implementing processes and systems into them and holding them to account, and then they tend to come back a little bit. So what I tend to say is if you're having that conversation with regards to firing, it's time to do it now, and don't wait. Don't wait 3 months. Don't wait a month. Don't wait another week. Start having those and putting that ball in motion now, because that's probably the route that you're going to have to go down, providing you've done all the other support mechanisms to upskill and develop this individual. A key reason why people put off firing, it's tough. It's a very hard process, and it really does hurt. It hurts for both the person that's being fired and also the individual that's doing the firing. Believe it or not, as business owners, as private equity investors, as C-suite executives, we want our people to succeed in the most part more than they do. We want to invest in them, we want to put the right skills and tools into them, and we want them to be better probably than they want to be themselves. Now, that's a bit of a misconception. It's usually perceived that your boss doesn't want you to succeed, and that's very rarely the case. In the most part, these people want you to be the best possible version of you, want you to solve the problems that the business faces, and then that business can move on and into bigger, better, and brighter things. But unfortunately, it is hard to do, and therefore we do put that off. So you've built a relationship with this person, you've invested time, you invested possibly business capital, or likely business capital into them, whether that be at the private equity or portfolio side. Do not stop firing because it's hard. Take it, move in, and make that decision and make it fast. So on your screen at the moment, you can see some of the drawbacks, both in private equity and portfolio, of what holding on to underperformers within your business will do. There's some key things in there, and obviously a lot of that ends up being lower on your portfolio side, ends up being lower EBITDA multiples, longer exit timelines, and evidently unhappy LPs within your firm. And on the private equity side, you've got a very similar move. Your portfolios are going to hurt if your investors aren't as good. Your deals aren't going to be as good because your investors aren't as good, and therefore your LPs are not going to be happy. Many firms that I've spoken to that have struggled on new fundraisers have come down to the fact that they haven't done the right deals, they haven't made the right investments, and that they've struggled on that. And I don't want that to be you. So if you've got people in your firm that are not up to scratch, make those changes now, move them into different positions if you can. Don't do that as an excuse not to fire. But if you haven't got the option to give them because their skill set doesn't really heavily align to something else, let's get rid, let's move on, and let's get the right person into your firm. Firing pain is only temporary, but not firing is devastating for your private equity firm or your portfolio company. Trust me when I say this, I hate firing. I absolutely detest it. It's nothing I look forward to, and it's the most horrible process of running a business. But it is a key part of my job, and it's essential. The team knows it, the team understands it, and it is an essential part of your job too. One thing that I did like, and whether it's true or not, I believe it is true, but you may argue differently. But when you release somebody from the business, you're actually doing them a favor. And this might be a way of just softening the blow for the person firing, I don't know. But I like to think it's true, that you're doing them a favor. You're giving them an opportunity to find something that they're going to be happy in. Nobody likes being in a role where they're underperforming. Nobody likes underperformance. Nobody's sitting there going in and going, I really hope that I don't perform today. People intrinsically want to perform, they just don't have the skill set, they don't have the knowledge, or they just don't have the will and the drive because they're in the wrong space. So you giving them that freedom to move into something else is releasing them and giving them the opportunity to succeed in a different organization, a different industry. When you exit somebody from a firm, whether that's a senior executive in your portfolio or maybe even a well-known investor within your private equity firm, that's bound to create some awareness and to create some chatter. Now, what I've found is that if you do things for the right reasons and that you're exiting that person because of their underperformance, because of X, Y, and Z, then your people will understand this. It's likely that they already know it and they'll be coming to you and going, I can't believe you didn't do that earlier. That person didn't understand X, that person didn't understand Y. It surprises me how aware, especially my team is, when things are looking to change. The biggest challenge that you have then is communicating that to the whole company, to the whole private equity firm, and replacing that person with a top performer. The pressure is on you now to make sure you get that right person. Let me jump back to hiring. Hire slow, fire fast. Now, maybe that you don't have a lot of time and that you need the right person in as soon as possible with the right skill set. Build out a scorecard. We've got a video on that as well, and make sure you understand the full criteria of what you're looking for somebody to achieve within this business. And therefore, when they come in, they can absolutely achieve within your organization, whether that be your portfolio company or your private equity firm, and you have complete clarity over what is needed to take that business to an exit, all the challenges that are going to come with it, and therefore all the experience that you need for somebody to have. And obviously within your private equity firm, all of the nuances and all of the deals modeling and all the financial modeling and everything else that you require, make sure that you can assess that and that you have a really strong area that you can look at and go, yes, we need somebody because of this, this, and this, and ensure that they tick those boxes. It's all well and good talking about firing, but what are the rules around it? How do we create excellence around exiting people from the business? What I tend to like is I like to show people as much compassion as they did on the way in as they do on the way out. This is going to be really awkward and horrible for the other person as well. Don't be really negative with them. Be as positive and constructive with them as possible. Be honest with these individuals and tell them where it is and where it's gone wrong. And also, do not let them come out of that and not know whether they're exiting the organization or not. be really clear. Something I learned early on in my career was if you are exiting someone from the business and they are surprised, you've done your role wrong. Somebody should be, before they exit the business, be given as much support and development as you possibly can to try and save that person and get them up to speed. I know this conversation has a lot been about, right, let's get rid of people, but it's not. There's a whole part beforehand that you need to support people and give them the opportunity to do the right things, to get things right, and to get up to speed. Now, obviously, if that's happened and you can't do it, then the exit process needs to take place. But if you suddenly turn around one day and you've listened to this and you suddenly run into the office, pull your 2 underperformers in and exit them, you've not done your job properly. Nobody should be surprised that they're being exited. There's something called performance management, and that's what people should go through. And you should have a set process that when you have an individual who's underperforming, either in your portfolio company as a C-suite exec or in your private equity firm as an investor or back office team, you need to take them through a process to improve their skills, to make them very clear on what they're missing out on. So when you do exit them, they're fully understanding of that and they've kind of seen it coming. It's probably that they're already looking for a new opportunity, which I know doesn't sound great from your perspective, but it is. If they're finding something that's right for them, then that's fantastic. And that's what we want. We want people to walk away happy as they can be and progress with their career. Now, this is something I've considered for myself. No matter how uncomfortable, no matter how somebody pleads for their role, never go back on your firing process. So if you're in a firing meeting, never turn to them and say, okay, what I'm going to do is we'll do this, this, and this. If you're at a firing and exit process, providing you've done everything correctly beforehand, then that's an exit process. There's no going back. It is a way out for them, for the business, and an opportunity for them to find the right opportunity to which they will succeed. Now, this is a big one. And the moment you start to think about firing somebody, the moment you start to consider somebody's performance, is to start to look at taking those steps of improving that performance. And if you're consistently talking about exiting someone from the business, you need to take action immediately and do that. Exit them from the business. Now, this is a lot to take in, and it's quite a horrible subject. It's not something I get excited about whatsoever, but I do think it's a really important topic. Now, if you're sitting here as a private equity investor or maybe a C-suite exec and you're thinking, I need to go down this process, and you want to have a conversation, obviously I run an executive search firm and we do replacement hires all the time. But if you just want to have a chat about firing and a discussion about it, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. So if you reach out to me, it's alex.rawlings@raw-selection.com, and we'd be happy to help and discuss. And if it's just a piece of advice or just a bit of a chat, happy to go through that. But all the best with this. It's a horrible process. Make it as positive as possible. And remember, be compassionate with the person who's on their way out and be as open, honest, and transparent as you can be with that process. Thank you very much for listening. If you haven't already done, please do like, please do subscribe to the channel, and you'll be notified of the next video that comes out.